Good Monday morning, A to Z Sports Nashville. Got a little extra juice this morning, Ryan, because it is NFL Scouting Combine Week. The weather is going to try its darndest to keep some of us that might happen to live in a state like New Jersey away from the state of Indiana. But it will not prevail. We will get there one way or another. We are starting today's show on the clock because I have to scurry out of my house as soon as we are done here, right around 9 p.m. Central Time, to get in JT's car, and we are going to run in his car at legal speeds, I'm sure, for the next 4 hours to Indianapolis to be able to set up on Radio Row. We've got a lot to do today, but we can't neglect what is the morning show that's going to kick off a big week, and I'm excited that you're here with me to preview the Combine because it's officially draft season, my friend. How are we?
I mean, I'm doing okay, man. 13 plus inches of snow here in Jersey, so we had our flight canceled already. Oh, yeah, 13 plus.
That's morning. Not the projection. That's what you're at so far?
No, I think it's going to be like 18 inches probably is what we're going to settle at here.
Cool.
But yeah, so the flight has been canceled already. We have a rental car ready to go. Luckily, I do make the trip to Indianapolis in the car like a couple times every year, so I'm not worried about it, Easton, because as soon as we get out of this East Coast path of disaster, the ride's going to be okay. So we're going to be fine. We're going to get there. We are going to get to Indianapolis on a Tuesday. It is a absolute guarantee. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I love that energy.
Yes.
I believe you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are we that the roads are passable in your neck of the woods right now?
Well, the good news is that we're not leaving until tomorrow, and the snow is going to start tapering off like later this afternoon. So as long as our lovely people who get the roads clean for us do a solid enough job, we will make it out of Jersey and Pennsylvania, and we'll get going. We'll get out there.
Fantastic. Well, that's good news. And the good news for our audience this morning is that we are talking all combine all day. It is the Easton and Ryan show, as Steven says.
That's it.
And we are going to ask 5 questions that once we do eventually get to Indianapolis, when it comes to the Titans, we are hunting down answers to these questions 24 hours a day, for 7 straight days this week. It is what I am headed to Indianapolis saying, I'm not leaving this city until I've got some answers on these topics. I can't wait to dive into these questions with you to get your 2 cents, because I wrote this at atozsports.com last night, so we'll get your 2 cents on what your maybe your prediction is to the answer to some of these questions. And we'll talk about what we're looking for specifically this week, the clues that we're looking for to gather to be able to answer these questions. A lot to dive into, but first, a couple of things we need everyone in the comments to do for us. We need you to like the show. So if you're on Facebook or on YouTube, hit that like button for us. We really appreciate you doing so. It is free. It is easy. It is going to help us share the show with as many friends as possible. Speaking of sharing, be a friend. Share the show with a Titans buddy, with an NFL head this morning. Say, hey, we're talking ball this morning. It's Combine Week. Get in here and have them join the chat with you. That's the last thing. You need to jump in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube. We want to hear your thoughts, your 2 cents on our topics this morning. So let's get it started officially, Ryan. Welcome in to the A to Z Sports Morning Show live on a Monday morning. We are live every weekday morning here on the A to Z Sports YouTube channel at 8:10 Central Time, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links are tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter feed at ATOZ Sports. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage, and follow us on Google at the link that I'm about to copy into the chat right now. This is a way for you, whenever you're Google searching football things, to get A to Z Sports as one of your preferred sources. So it helps you because you get the stuff that you want. It helps us because it gets our stuff in front of you. It's a win-win if you ask me. Hit that link and follow us on Google. I got to thank our sponsors for making the show happen and helping out you all at home. The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine. Check them out at boneandjointtn.org. Barton Jury Insurance Group, customized solutions for all of your insurance needs, local and online at bartonjury.com. And Win Donation. Take advantage of February's Buy 4, Get 4 Windows free sale. You could get up to 0% interest financing for 2 years. All right, Ryan, so let's just dive right in since we're on the clock and we've got about 45 minutes to get through 5 questions. Our first question has to do with what is easily the number 1 topic in Titans world for this draft. I think it's what's going to probably remain the number 1 topic in Titans world until we get to the end of April, because the Titans have a desperate need at edge rusher, which converges with what pretty much all of draft history tells us about the edge position, which is if you want a stud, you better take one in the first round, which converges with this draft class that we can bicker about the blue chip, red chip nature of these players. We can bicker about where they would fall in the last 5 years of draft classes, how they compare to recent edges off the board. But you set those things aside. Comparison is the thief of joy, Ryan. There are 3 edge rushers in this class that are very different players that are all being talked about as top 10, top 5 players in this class, and the Titans have the 4th overall pick. So the first question that I wrote about is, what do we think the Titans' preference is going to be when it comes to Miami's Ruben Bain, Texas Tech's David Bailey, and Ohio State's Arvell Reese? I'm going to ask this question in the chat while you tell me your thoughts on where you think the Titans might have these guys ranked.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating question. I'm glad that we're starting with it because, I mean, it's highly likely that at least one of those players, if not at least 2 of those players, will end up being on the board when the Tennessee Titans pick at number 4. But I really do think, Easton, it's so fascinating because each of them are so different, right?
Yes.
Like, it is I was listening to your show with Austin where you were talking about when Gus Bradley had his introductory press conference, new defensive coordinator for the Titans, where he was talking about the 2 ends that he needs in his system. And then I think you phrased it as he needs a Ruben Bain and he needs a David Bailey, right?
Yeah.
Like it really is kind of summed up perfectly because when you look at Bain is an outlier, big, strong, physical defensive end who wins more off of brute strength and speed to power conversion in comparison to David Bailey, who's that pure first step, speed, explosiveness guy. And then you have Arvell Reese, who some people in the NFL view as a linebacker, other views as an edge. And I'll tell you this, at least a few teams have him graded at both different positions, right? Have him graded as linebacker and a defensive end as an edge spot. So it is fascinating because if you are in the belief that Arvell Reese is a full-time edge on the NFL level, then you can kind of closely compare him to David Bailey. But regardless of if you want to make that close comparison, either one of those players are anything like Ruben Bain. Like Ruben Bain is a most just odd outlier type of player who is a good player, by the way. But when you're comparing one to the other, it really is going to come down to, for the Titans, one, how do you peg the board just in general in terms of raw football players, just overall football players? But then overall, it's going to go to which style and which play just dynamic do you value more than the other? If you're a team that values the pure outside speed bendy guys, or outside speed explosive guys, I should say, then David Bailey's going to be your cup of tea. If you're a guy that says, I don't care, Ruben Bain has that speed to power physical dude that took over the playoffs, I'm going to bet on that guy. For me, I think it's Bailey right now. I mean, those things could change so much, but I really do think when you look at the history of Robert Saleh and prioritizing speed and explosiveness in his career, he wants guys that get up the field, both on the exterior and interior. He wants those guys. So which guy does that better than all 3 of those players? It's David Bailey. It's not even comparable, right? So at the outside track winner, I think makes the most sense right now.
Well, before I give my answer, let's see what the chat has to say, because I did ask, and if you're joining us a little bit late, here's what we're talking about right now. Where do we think the Titans have the top 3 edge rushers in this class stacked up? I'm scrolling to find your answers. Jeffrey says Bailey is too stiff. Let's put a pin in that. And Ryan, let's get your 2 cents on stiff Mr. Bailey. What good is a wicked first step if you can't bend even a little bit, which is, that's what I'm being told Bailey can't bend. Lane says, had the feeling that Saleh is very high on Arvell Reese. Corey says it's Bailey. So that's his order. He's all in on David Bailey. Arvell Reese, Jack says, is his top option, followed by Bain, followed by Bailey. The question is, if 1A, 1B are gone, how do they view C versus Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson? Jack, you're ahead of us. You're 1 question ahead. We're going to get to this. Don't you worry, my friend. Ryan and I did a whole mock draft last week predicated on that very question. So we'll discuss here in a second.
Hey, man, he read your article yesterday, so
that's right. Hey,
shout out to him.
You got to love when the chat just volleyball set you up a perfect lob to spike down. Thank you, Jack. Our resident scribe here on the morning show. Jacob says, oh, I see what you've done here. Druvid Bainley, not answering the question, just combining names into an amalgamation. Josh says Bain, Reese, Bailey, but not sure they expect Reese to fall to 4. I can understand that because I mean, Ryan, this is anecdotal on my part, but it seems to me that Reese is higher on most big boards than the other 2. I know it's a real mixed bag, but if you
say that one more time, it seems like digest. Yeah.
It seems like and again, this is anecdotal on my part, so I'm curious if you have a different experience, that Arvell Reese is slightly higher on average on big boards than the other two.
Yes, because I think that. Look, so here's the disclaimer though, real quick. I don't have Arvell Reese graded as an edge rusher in this class. I have him graded as a linebacker. I do personally, but I do think if you throw him into the edge bucket and just the bucket in general, one thing that I learned very early in my scouting career, based upon some misses early, is that traits on the edge matter so much. They do, man. When you start valuing too far on the other side of nuance over athleticism and no nuance over twitch and nuance over bend and all those types of things, that leads to a lot of Derek Barnett misses.
Jack
right?
Sawyer,
like
baby.
Jack Sawyer's. Like that's the competitive balance between striding that line of wanting nuanced football players, but also betting on high upside explosive guys. Because you mentioned it already. The guys in the NFL, for the most part, that are successful, really good edge rushers are guys that were drafted high. Why were they drafted high, Easton? Because they have traits. Like, traits matter on the edge. There are admittedly some positions, like interior offensive line and a couple others, where you say, I think traits are a little bit overvalued. I think it's a little bit overrated. On the edge, I completely disagree. Anybody that says, oh, just draft good football players, traits don't matter on the edge, I completely disagree, because development is a thing. Upside is a thing. So I think in comparison, Reese has the most upside, God-given athleticism compared to any of those players. And also, I think the one thing we forget about a little bit is that Arvell Reese is a one-year starter at Ohio State.
Bingo.
So there is still more to get done there, man. There is still more developmental upside. So I think that's why you just compare. Can I push back on one thing real quick that I saw in the chat, kind of on
Let's hear it.
It's going off on a David Bailey thing for a second. I
Is
actually
this the
might have
bend
lost.
conversation?
Oh, no, not the Ben conversation. Mike Bell said Bailey blew by nobodies. The best game of David Bailey's season was against Utah, where he consistently dominated Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu, who are both going to be first-round offensive tackles in this class. So
it's even more than that, though. Like, I feel like when I watched, because I got around to watching these top guys within the past 2 weeks, basically, between the Senior Bowl and the Combine, and I felt like I was running down the literal big board list of tackles in the class when I was watching David Bailey.
Right.
Very few of them weren't blown by David Bailey. So I'm not sure what I get that, like, just generally like, oh, that conference in this year's class, that doesn't mean what you think it means.
No, I think that said perfectly. Sorry, I was on mute and I was laughing
good.
because Austin made fun of us saying it's not going to be 45-minute show, but we'll see, Austin. We'll see.
No, we'll speed run some of these other topics. Don't you worry. Last question on this topip,
yes.
the bend thing with Bailey.
Yeah.
When you watched him, do I see Gumby out there? No. But that's not like what's his crown jewel winning trait? It's the first step, right? It's the quickness. I think that he has perfectly adequate bend for a guy that's going to get upfield that quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it is league average to slightly above league average. Like, I don't think it's great by any stretch, but I would say this, Easton, we always just hyper focus on length and bend and like these very like cliche, like these really niche words in the scouting world. But if you don't have one of those things or you lack in one of those things, there are these things called overcompensating traits that help you. And Bailey has first step explosiveness, closing speed, and length. Those things all overcompensate for the fact that he might not be upper echelon bend in the NFL level. That's where the conversation of Ruben Bain's arm length comes into effect of like, does he have the closing speed and the bend while being a shorter armed, sawed off player to be able to consistently win and to finish plays. So I would agree in the sense of like David Bailey does not have anywhere near elite bend. Absolutely. But it is not to this debilitating level where I'm super worried about him finishing plays in the NFL.
I'll give my answer and then we got to move on. My answer is Arvell Reese, I think, is at the top basically because of what you said, the traits. I also think the team that ends up taking Arvell Reese needs to have a pretty strong plan for him if they plan on using him in any kind of hybrid, non-traditional, just line up as a wide nine edge kind of guy. And honestly, it might be cope on my part. Robert Saleh is one of the guys I would peg in the league as like, I bet that guy could maximize a player like this in their defense. Maybe that's just because I've watched him use the Fred Warners and the Nick Bosas of the world, and the way that he has, the way that he operated with that Jets defense being the best in the league for a couple of years. So it might just be proximity bias or recency bias, but I think that he would have a smart approach to using an Arvell Reese if he's going to do more than just put his hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback.
I think that Arvell Reese is the best player in this draft, and I know I would say I'm in a slight minority in that one. I think there's some people that share that opinion, but not a ton of people, I don't think. But I think the key here, though, is for Arvell Reese is that he does need to find a defensive system and a defensive-minded head coach or defensive coordinator that understands how to use him. Like, you can fail Arvell Reese, I think. I think you can fail him. But I do think if you have a strategy and a role for him specifically that can accentuate his strengths, I think that he has the chance to be a Pro Bowl player pretty early in his career. I believe that.
All right, let's keep it moving to question number 2. We're asking it in the chat right now. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, chime in. Here's the question. What do you need to learn about Carnell Tate, Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate, for him to be a top 5 pick option for the Titans? We'll talk about that here in just a second after I tell everyone about our friends over at Barton Drury Insurance Group. They are your local destination, your one-stop shop for any of your business or personal insurance needs. It's customized solutions for all of your insurance needs. They have been serving Tennesseans for over 40 years. Austin and Zach bought from them a little over a year ago when they had to get insurance for A to Z Sports, and they loved the number of options and plans, the responsiveness, the expertise. Everything about the team over at BartonDrury.com was top-notch when Austin and Zach used them for themselves. They offer everything that you could possibly need from an insurance company, from employee benefits to 401k planning, life insurance, workers' comp, liability, auto, property, umbrella, and surety bonds. They are local, and they strive to provide excellent service, of course. But most importantly, they want to take the time to make sure everyone understands their insurance policies. So again, it's customized solutions for all of your insurance needs. Check them out today at BartonDrury.com. Like the show, subscribe to the show, do all the things, jump in the comments. We're asking our second question, which is about Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. And Ryan, it is I wouldn't say way too early, but it's probably still general rule of thumb. It's usually dumb to say anything definitive before we get through Combine Week. That being said, in my gut, I feel like the Titans really have 4 options at pick number 4. And it's the 3 gentlemen we just mentioned that play edge, and it's Carnell Tate. I do not think that they will have an option to trade down. I do not think, based on what I know about Mike Borgonzi and the way that he values premium positions, I do not think that Jeremiah Love or Sonny Styles or who am I missing? Who else could possibly be a pick at number 4? Whoever else is an option up there.
I think it's a smaller board at the top, to be honest. I think it's a little bit of a smaller board. So yeah.
Right. So I don't see these arguably blue chip non-premium positions really being options to the Titans at number 4. I do see Carnell Tate as being an option. So I kind of joked with Austin the other day. He asked me, like, what are the odds the Titans take an edge at number 4? I was like, I don't know, 75%, because the 3 of their 4 options, I think, are edge rushers. Right. What do we need to hear this week in Indianapolis, Ryan? Or maybe what do we need to see? Or do you need to see anything to say, hey, Carnell Tate, 6'3", 200 and whatever pound Ohio State receiver. Ohio State receivers have been pretty good recently. Pretty strong system they got up there. What do you need to see to say this guy could be a top 5 pick?
I think first and foremost it comes down to, like, I just want to. I'm not worried about the medicals with Carnell Tate, but he was banged up down the stretch of the season. Oh, Caleb. Well, you're not drafting a safety at 4. Are you crazy? Are you absolutely crazy? Carnell Tate, though, he was banged up down the stretch of the season, right, Easton? So I mean, like, the first and foremost.
You're back now.
Oh, am I there? Am I there? Hopefully, am I there? I don't know.
I hear you now. I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Hopefully I'm okay. I might hop out and hop back in a second here. It seems like I'm a little bit delayed. I don't know.
I think you are a little delayed, but that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, we're not drafting Caleb Downs at number 4. We're not drafting a safety at number 4. But for Carnell Tate, I think first and foremost, you want to make sure that everything just checks out medically. Again, I'm not worried about that, but he was banged up down the stretch of the season. So, like, let's just check the box real quick, check it off. After that, I really think it just comes down to, what do you want to show at the combine comparatively to what you want to show at the pro day? Because he is, I wouldn't call Carnell an explosive athlete. Carnell is a very smooth athlete. So is he a player that wants to come in Indianapolis and show that he is maybe a little bit faster, a touch faster than some people think? Or does he want to wait to the pro day? I actually think it's probably smart of Carnell to go there, interview well, check out the medicals, maybe do a little bit of field work, but maybe save most of the testing for the pro day, because I have a sneaking suspicion, Easton, that he is going to be a solid to good tester, but nowhere near to the level that you are going to try to convince yourself of being a top 5 pick. So I don't think that Carnell Tate needs to do much in Indianapolis. I think if he's smart, he will do, I don't want to say as little as possible, but I do think that he needs to check the easy boxes in Indianapolis, and then check a couple of the bigger ones maybe at the pro day.
Yeah, let's take a peek at what the chat is saying as I'm scrolling, and where did we start talking about this? You guys are active in the chat this morning. Oh, people are saying it's my audio that's messed up. Okay, well, then I'll leave and come back. Ryan, you continue to vamp for me for one moment.
Okay, sounds like a plan. That was man, that was interesting there. It was super interesting. So, as we're asking the question about Carnell Tate's, and thank you guys for letting me know that I was good, because I was actually very worried. I was like, I don't really know what happened there. But we have some differing opinions, it seems, on the Carnell Tate situation as I'm kind of scanning the chat. And here's the interesting thing, Easton, of the wide receiver conversation real quick, because you mentioned Carnell Tate. Carnell is also kind of interesting because I do believe that he has the easiest track to be the first wide receiver taken. But are you definitive today that he is wide receiver 1 in this class? Because it's interesting, because I do think there's going to be some split on, and this is why I think he has the clearest path, is Carnell doesn't have a ton of questions to answer to my original answer to the question of what he has to prove. But the other guys that he's competing against, Jordan Tyson, Arizona State, with the medicals, a lot of issues there. I mean, well documented. He completely tore up his knee in 2022. He's had a collarbone. He's had some soft tissue stuff. He's had a hamstring. Like, he's had a bunch of stuff during the course of his career over the last 4 years. So he needs to answer the medical question mark. And then after that, Mekhi Lemon out of USC is a guy that I love the film, but he is going to be a guy, and I would bet on him all day, just kind of putting that out there. But I do think that there's going to be some teams that are going to look at him and say, am I going to mortgage a top 10 draft pick, top 5 draft pick on a guy that is probably right around 5'10", going to run, be 190 pounds and run 4.51? Like, that's kind of what Mekhi is. So he's a little bit of an outlier. I think Carnell has the easiest path to wide receiver 1, which is why I think that the less blemishes or the less warts he shows in Indianapolis, I think is better for him, because I think he's leading the pack in that conversation right now, if that makes sense.
So I agree with you on that front. To answer your question, do I think he's wide receiver 1? I do. I mean, to be fair, I've only watched the top, how many, 8 or so. I've watched like through Chris Brazzell on your draft board. So wherever that number is, it's like 8 guys or whatever. So unless there's some guy that I just fall head over heels for that I've not gotten to yet, to actually watch some tape on, I think that he's my top guy. And Tyson's the only one that is really competing for that. It's the medicals that make it pretty cut and dry to me. I mean, right. That's what this week is for. We'll find out on or at least the teams will find out. We may find out something about his medicals this week, but that's going to be a gamble for whoever takes him. And he is an awesome player when he's healthy, but I don't know how healthy you can be when you have that kind of a track record, because, like you said, it's a game of operation with this guy.
It's also the game of long-term versus short-term payback, right? Because like it reminds me a little bit, I don't know if you remember when Landon Dickerson came out of Alabama, but there was a similar conversation of Landon Dickerson, whose film was really good at Alabama, and he's been very good in the NFL when healthy, but he'd never finished a season at Alabama healthy, like and at Florida State too. So like 5 straight years, he had season-ending injuries to different levels of degree. Tyson's kind of the same, man. Like, he was limited this year. He missed the end of the 2024 season. He missed the entirety of the 2022 season, and I think most of the 2023 season as well. Actually, sorry, missed most of the 2022 season. Missed, I think, all of the 2023 season, recuperating from the 2022 injury. So this guy has been very scarcely available during the course of his career. So that is just kind of a hard thing to bet on. Even if the medicals pass, I think there's going to be an interesting conversation around the league of, like, even if like the short term looks good, can we trust a guy that has had such a daunting injury report to be healthy for 4 to 5 years of a first contract. Like that's where kind of things get really shaky for me.
Well, just to not neglect the chat this morning, there's clearly a split opinion. We asked whether or not Carnell Tate could do something this week to convince you he's a top 5 pick. Ryan says nothing. He can't do anything. Ira Hoshi, not worth it. His 40 time is what Bajan is looking to see from him. Tall Texas says nothing because he plays on offense and scores touchdowns. That's all he needs to know. He's interested in bringing in a guy that can be a producer on offense. Let's see. People are still talking about the edge rushers. Understandable. Jack says nothing. My trust in Ohio State wide receivers is unshakable. So what he was, he was wide receiver 2. That's because Ohio State has a unicorn. Tate is JSN. Well, if he is JSN, then he's obviously worth a top 5 pick. That's big swings. JSN is about to be paid the highest in the league at the receiver position. I'll say, like, I definitely think Tate is a big victim of comparison, right? We are, like, scouting 101 is don't helmet scout, and I understand that.
Right.
There are some exceptions, like Ole Miss skill players, for example.
Alabama offensive lineman.
Right. Yeah. Ohio State receivers are about the safest pick you can make in the past half decade of NFL drafting. So I'm pretty certain he's going to be a good player. The question is whether or not he's going to be a great player. And I do think the fact that he has been playing second fiddle to an absolute alien on that team. I mean, I've heard basically anyone I've talked to about watching his film, at some point it comes up like, I know I'm trying to focus on guys that are actually coming out this year, but it's impossible not to be distracted by that guy at the top of the screen.
Yep. There's gonna be a lot of sucking for Jeremiah Smith. I don't even know what the phrase is going to be next year.
That worked. That painted the picture.
There's nothing that rhymes with Jeremiah, so that I think is like a being bad or sucking thing. So, but either way, yes, there's gonna be a lot of you are tanking for Jeremiah Smith, even though that's crazy to tank for wide receiver to a degree. But regardless, I don't. Easton, the last 2 years he had to share the field with Emeka Egbuka too, right? Like Correct. 2 years ago. Like, so it's not like it's just with Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate, I think, was a good player in 2024. I think he was a elite player in 2025. He was fantastic. To me, he compares favorably, in my opinion, to a more athletic Robert Woods. And for people that don't remember Robert Woods was a heck of a player. Like
not Titans legend Robert Woods.
No.
Rams legend Robert Woods.
Rams legend Robert Woods. 1,200-yard receiver Robert Woods. I think that Tate is even a little bit longer, a little bit of a just more explosive athlete comparative to Robert Woods. So I think Tate's like pretty... There's no such thing as...
He's more of a smooth, long strider than Robert ever was.
Yes. Oh, he's so smooth. Yeah, 100%. There is no such thing as a can't miss player because situations and injuries happen, right? So anyone is technically can miss, but Carnell Tate is about as high of a floor as a player as there is in this class. At worst, he's going to be a good to very good wide receiver in the NFL. Will he be a elite wide receiver 1? I'm not sure about that, but regardless, he's going to be a very good player in the NFL level, barring injury.
Nick Ewing says Tankariah for Jeremiah. Jack Longley says Whiff for Smith. We've got 2 on the board. We are workshopping this in real time. Okay, we got 3 more questions, and we've got about 20 minutes to get through them. So let's move and groove. Our third question is about the top of day 2, which in a sense is even more interesting a conversation than round 1 because there are so many more options, and we also have no idea who's going to be there. That's the topic of discussion here. Ryan, can we figure out this week who we think is actually going to make it to the top of round 2. We'll discuss that in just 1 second. But first, let me tell you about our friends at Window Nation. They are running a February month of love sale. Buy 4, get 4 windows for free in the month of in the month of February. All you have to do is call 866-90-NATION or go to windownation.com to schedule a fast and free, did I say free estimate now with the pros at Window Nation. You could get up to 0% interest financing for 2 years. It's a fantastic time of year to replace your windows with our friends at Window Nation. Zero pressure, zero hassle. If you have them out to your house to just talk through your options, talk through pricing, talk through the plan. If you do buy windows from them, they replace them all in 1 day, so it's not some giant inconvenience to your life having to move you out of the house. They get it done. You got to find 1 day to let them in, and they will get you fixed up and increase the value of your home. Check them out today at windownation.com. So Ryan, our next question, our third question, is about day 2. The Titans have pick 35 in the second round, and honestly, I mean, a lot of draft heads will be like, the best day of the draft is day 2, which I agree with. It is. The best time of draft weekend, though, to me, is the 21.5-ish hours between the end of round 1 and the beginning of round 2. Because it's just a mad dash scramble from everybody in the league, all the GMs calling each other, trying to figure out, hey, there's always 1 or 2 or 3 guys that are left as like, I can't believe they didn't go in round 1. Holy cow, we have a chance to get them at the top of round 2, and people are scrambling to get one of those top picks. The Titans have the 3rd pick in the 2nd round, so they're going to be in that territory, kind of similar to where they were last year when they traded out of the spot that they had to move back and add some capital. In my latest mock draft this morning, by the way, shameless plug, I did that again with Mike Borgonzi, and the Titans added another day 2 top 100 pick. But what's interesting to me, Ryan, pre-combine, is it feels really hard to mock in that range, because when I'm using my mock draft simulator of choice, which other shameless plug, you and I ranked mock draft simulators, go and find that on ADZsports.com to find your new favorite mock draft simulator. It feels like the guys left on the board at pick 35 are a combination of guys that I feel in my heart the generator is being too generous in letting me even have a chance to draft them there. And then guys that I'm like, I like them in the 50s and 60s. I don't like them in the 30s. And so who are some of the names, I guess, that stick out to you as this week's going to go a long way in us figuring out whether they're really first round picks or not?
Well, I think the most important part of Combine Week is, one, to figure out the medical situation for some players and to start to hear more about the medicals on our end of things. But then also, Easton, it's trying to figure out, I believe, when runs are going to happen in the drafts. Because I think that is going to really be dependent on who is going to be at the top of the second. When does the wide receiver run starts? When does the cornerback run starts? Because there are a couple cornerbacks that I feel pretty good about being there in the early second, but if a cornerback goes a little bit earlier than maybe we anticipated, goes like, let's say in the top 9 picks or something, then there might be a deeper run on corners in the first round than we were originally anticipating. If Carnell Tate does go number 4, then maybe there's a run on wide receivers a lot earlier than we anticipated as well. But regardless, I do think there's going to be a nice mix of wide receivers at the top of the second rounds. It's possible that Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana is there. That is visualized on the screen. It's possible that Chris Brazel, that everybody loves out of Tennessee. Brazel, yeah, no. There was a Chris Brazel that played at Alabama. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Chris Brazel.
Prospect. By the way, the tone of your voice tells me that you're not the biggest Brazel fan.
I feel like I like the idea of Brazel better than I like the actual player of Brazel, if that makes sense. Like the height, weight, speed guy that had production his final year at Tennessee. It sounds cool in theory, but then you watch him, you're just like, yeah, he's all right. He's okay. He's all right.
All right, we disagree on this, and maybe that's a topic for this week when we are.
Yes, maybe it is a
topic.
Person. Yes, absolutely. But I think a Cooper, a Brazel could be interested. If you're able to be patient, I think a Chris Bell out of Louisville is an extremely interesting player, depending on how patient you can be at the wide receiver position.
The Titans just can't, but I love Chris Bell.
I know.
It's devastating that he's not going to be available to play this year.
I love Chris Bell too. Cornerbacks, I think that there's a possibility that a Colton Hood out of Tennessee could be staring at you in the face. There's a possibility that a Chris Johnson out of San Diego State could be staring at you in the face. So, I mean, there's going to be options, man. The good news for Titans fans or Titans in general, I think, is that corner and wide receiver are 2 of the better-ish classes in this draft. So, like, corner, I think, is deep. I think wide receiver is pretty deep as well. So that early second-round pick, you should have the choice of a couple of really talented players at either position, and I think that there's going to be opportunities to find someone that can come in and immediately help you, unless you want to be patient with Chris Bell. I don't know if you want to be patient with him or not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, this you know this as well as I do, Ryan. What's funny about mock drafts is because I, as somebody that like knows where the wind is blowing on some of these guys, when I get to that pick and I see some of them, my gut is screaming like, you cannot with a straight face pick this guy here. He's not going to be there. Like it's a fantasy. But in order for that guy to actually not be available, it means one of the players that the mock draft simulator already took off the board has to become re-available. Like only 32 players can go in the first round. That's how math works.
Well, and then also Easton, also, every single year we say that there's no chance that player will be there, but then Will Johnson falls to the second round because we didn't know that he had a horrible medical issue with his knee, right?
And that's always what it is, right? It's the medicals of the off-field that we don't know, right? Luther Burden for a different reason. It's like a lot of teams just didn't like him for off-field reasons.
After the Senior Bowl and Combine last year, did anybody think that Mike Green was going to be available in the late second rounds out of Marshall? Like
those of us that knew the truth about his allegations,
those of us did,
but the rest of us, yeah.
Absolutely.
So
if everybody knew about the alleged accusations that he was facing, like you knew that there was a possibility that he could drop. But regardless, I really don't like the conversation of that guy's not going to be here. One, you're just being like a party pooper, dude. Just enjoy your life. Like, just stop for a second. And then
Shut
two,
up, loser.
You have no idea if that player is going to be there, because until you know everything about that player, character-wise, injury history-wise, injury projection-wise, you have no idea if that player is fully going to be there. So, yes, there's a lot that's going to happen over the next couple months.
Let's get to our fourth question as we have about 14 minutes left on the clock here. We've got two more interesting ones, and this one is for the chat to chime in on. So let me go ahead and send it so that we can get some answers. We're talking about the player that doesn't fit into... Here's the deal, Ryan. I know that you've picked up on this because when you mock for the entire league, whenever you get to the Titans pick, I'm sure this is what crosses your mind too. This team has such a black and white screaming need at 3 premium positions. It makes it easy to do a mock draft, and like your first 4 picks is some combination of edge, receiver, cornerback, receiver, edge. Unless you're just straight picking for need, which Mike Borgonzi is too process oriented to do, the odds are that the board won't fall that way. Now, to your point, if you break down the average top 100 big board, the strongest positions in this class happen to be edge, cornerback, and receiver. So I think that need and best player available will converge in a convenient way for the Titans for the most part in their first. They basically have 4 top 100 picks. They have pick 101.
Yeah.
But if we're just playing the odds, one of these first 4 picks is going to be a different position, unless you are just completely beholden by need. So that's the question we're asking. What position are the Titans most likely to, quote-unquote, surprise draft in the... I'm going to extend it to 4 rounds. In the first 4 picks, including pick 101, the first pick of day 3, what position, besides receiver, cornerback, and edge, are the Titans most likely to draft and surprise everybody when we're all so focused on receiver, cornerback, and edge? You all in the chat, let me know your thoughts on that while I tell you about our friends over at the Bone and Joint Institute. They are the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine. JT, right now, is driving on I-65. If he continued one exit past where he's going to get off to get to my house, he would see the big, beautiful Bone and Joint Institute building off to his left-hand side. If you're in the Nashville area, just shoot down the interstate and you will find it. You can't miss it, frankly. It's a fantastic place for whatever you got wrong with you, whatever injury or ailment that you are dealing with in life. Our friends at BJI will get you straightened out. You have to know who to trust when you're hurt in life, and we trust the Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee. They are located in Franklin. They've got over a dozen specialists who can help you through any type of injury. It's a state-of-the-art rehab facility on campus to help you with your recovery, and they do it all under one roof for your convenience. Clinic, testing, imaging, surgery, and rehab. They're not sending you running around town. JT just texted me in real time. He will not be driving one more exit just to see the building. He knows where it is, though, and he's near it. That's the point. JT, quit texting and driving. Schedule an appointment today. Go to boneandjointtn.org.
Especially, JT, just such a bad decision on your part. But make sure also...
If he keeps doing that, he's going to have to go book an appointment at the Bone and Joint Institute, I'm afraid.
Man, another life lesson from Ryan's coming in the chat later today. Well, it'll be directed towards JT as it always is every single day.
Okay.
Make sure to like the show. That's where I was going to. I was going to go off on a tangent there for a second. I apologize. Make sure you like the show. Make sure, whether you're with us on YouTube, Facebook, or any other podcast platform, make sure that you hit that like button and you subscribe to that channel. I wanted to go right into this real quick, Easton, because I saw a lot of interesting kind of just disagreement. I don't even say disagreements, just ideas of where that surprise pick would come from. We have Curtis who says running back. We have a guard from Joe. We have a running back, Jeremiah Love from Steven. That's what the surprise is at pick 4. There it is.
Your boy, Ryan. Your boy.
It's my boy, man. It's my boy. Andre, guard center, so interior offensive line. Running back from hashtag. We have a center from Banjan Silva. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Linebacker from Mr. Clean 508. Somewhere on the offensive line from Hypega? My apologies.
Sure.
We have another interior offensive line. We have a Jeremiah Love. We have an offensive line. We have a safety, offensive line, a linebacker, a long snapper from Tall Texan, who's obviously trolling there. Linebacker, right. Running back, and running back. On here's one that you're gonna hate, and I'll end it on this one.
No.
Offensive tackle.
I don't hate it as much as you think. I just hated it.
Okay,
that's all. I actually don't. I mean, like, I am too trench pilled to like be furious with any team that invests a top 100 pick in tackles. Like you just,
especially when your right tackle could play guard anyway. So that's great, you know.
Right, well, now you managed to get there. I'm making me mad. Let's start with running back because people clearly think that the answer is running back. Now, if it's Jeremiah Love at 4, there's a whole conversation to be had about value there. But in terms of like getting a good player, congratulations, you've gotten a very good player. If let's assume it's not Jeremiah Love at 4 that they're talking about because they have 3 more picks in the top 101. This class is interesting because after you get past Jeremiah Love, who's the surefire immediate impact running back in this class that you're taking it in the 30s or in the 60s or at 101?
Joe and I on Best Spot Available actually just did a battle for running back 2 segments where it was like, I like Jonah Coleman out of Washington a lot.
Sure.
Joe, I think, had Jadarian Price from Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love's teammates. But then there was an interesting conversation between guys like Emmett Johnson and like a couple other guys where you're just like, it really is just going to come down to the flavor. Here's an interesting one, though, Easton. After Jeremiah Love goes most likely inside the top 10, if not the top 12 picks in this draft, there is a real chance that another running back doesn't go in the top 50. Otherwise, like this might be more of a top 75 conversation than a top 50 conversation for the next running back.
So what is your answer to this question? If you knew that the Titans spend at least one of these picks on something other than those top 3 premium positions, and I think that knowing the landscape of this draft is what makes this interesting, right? Because it's always probably a pretty safe bet. Be like, well, they'll probably get somebody in the trenches. You're always investing in the trenches, but the interior offensive line situation in this class is lacking, let's say.
Yeah.
The tackle situation, there are some decent developmental tackle options they could take on day 2. But I'm curious who may come to mind for you on that front. Tight end, just for what this team needs, I could be like, oh, they gave a good tight end. But tight end's the same as running back to me. It's like if you're not taking the top guy, Kenyon Sadiq, then you should sit on your hands until day 3 because there are a lot of good budget options. Don't spend a day 2 pick on one.
Yeah. I also don't love this tight end class other than Sadiq, to be honest. Like it's a little bit like I think there's a lot of day 3 tight ends, but I don't see like a lot of like day 2 value in tight end in this class.
No, me not at all. I think there's a lot of useful day 3 players though.
Yeah. Well, oh no, I agree with that. I mean, I think there was 27 tight ends invited to the combine, which is the most in like a long time. So I mean, a record. So yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of useful role players in the tight end room. So which is why I think that you don't have to reach for it, right? Like you can find a role later in the draft that you feel good about. For me, it would either be running back or interior offensive lineman would be like my one, right? I am actually going to go with interior offensive line just to be a little bit different because I saw a lot of running backs in the chat. The one guy that I keep circling, Easton, and I don't have the number. I know you had said 4 in the top 101, but I forget what the last 2 were for the Titans. I know they have obviously 35.
66 and 101.
66 and 101. At 66, one guy that keeps just kind of surfacing to me on Titans drafts at times that I keep circling is Connor Lew out of Auburn, who before his injury, the center from Auburn, he was being projected as like a top 35, 40 player in this draft who is probably going to be down the board a little bit. And that kid could, if he comes back from his injury healthy, he could be a starting center early in his NFL career for you, potentially. So I think interior offensive line is an interesting one. Do they like a Trey Zune at the back end there at like 101 as a Texas A&M offensive tackle who's going to convert inside and has starting grades as a center by some NFL teams? I think I'm going to go with interior offensive line and be a little bit more specific and find a guy that could potentially play center for this team in the near future, somewhat.
I like that answer. My answer is also in the trenches just because I know how much Mike Borgonzi values the trench play, and every front office is going to give you that lip service, but I really do think he means it, and I don't get the impression that this team is satisfied. Obviously on defense they're not satisfied, but I'm not sure they're satisfied on offense with their whole room. Now maybe that's depth more so than starting potential. Maybe that's immediate succession plans, like guys they're going to keep around for this year, but want somebody to develop into that role. So I would not be surprised by an offensive lineman picked in the top 101 at all. We've got one question left, Ryan. We got 5 minutes to answer it. So it's basically a name some dudes segment. It's a classic of draft media. What's your favorite sleeper in this class, basically? Who are the day 3 options that you and I are going to come back to our respective homes after the week in Indianapolis saying, I heard so much about this guy? And we'll go ahead and ask the question. Now, again, it needs to be guys that are not getting a lot of buzz, that are day 3 options, right? We're talking sleepers here. But what positions, what players are the most likely to be the hipster picks when we come out of Indianapolis? I will send that question in the chat while Ryan, you go ahead and just name some dudes.
So I was looking at wide receiver first. I had pulled up my board as you were talking. I think that 2 interesting day 3 wide receiver options, if I just want to pinpoint that position, because I do think that is an area of intrigue for the Titans just further down the board, especially maybe to get a second guy potentially in this class down the road. Dazon Stribling out of Ole Miss is a guy that I'm very intrigued in. He was at Oklahoma State previously. Big physical guy that has played a little bit in the slot, has played a little bit outside, but he's really good after the catch, which is surprising because he doesn't bring like great straight line speed, but I really do like him as a potential day 3 value. And then I also had written down Aaron Anderson from LSU, who is also a really good yak threat, but he is completely different than Dazon Stribling. He was like 5'7" and 3/4 or something like that, and 170 something pounds. So he's going to have to make a living as a returner / gadget type of dude. Mm-hmm. But that guy in 2024 was dynamic. And then in 2025, he kind of fell off the table a little bit because he was injured and LSU's offense was horrible this past season. So Aaron Anderson, Dazon Stribling, if we're talking about wide receiver values, I think that there's a couple interesting day 3 options there.
Going to go to the chat to get some answers from you all. Rob says he'd love to get Zune or Coogan late in the draft. Caden Curry is who Jeff has his eyes on. Jack Kelly. Kyle Lewis. Kyle Lewis he's already definitely a hipster pick. He's everybody's favorite linebacker at the top of day 4.
He feels like who was the wide receiver for Detroit that we were talking about yesterday
Isaac
a little
Tesla.
bit. He feels like Isaac Tesla. Where like everyone's drafting him like the 4th, 5th round, and it's like, guys, he might go in the 3rd rounds or maybe a little bit earlier.
Right, exactly. I'm trying to think who else he reminded me of. It might come to me eventually. Oh, current Titans player. Cedric Gray felt this way for me in the same role in that draft class 2 years ago. Where it's like everybody's failed. Did you know that he's actually a pretty decent coverage linebacker? Like it's the same line being pitched for Kyle Lewis out of Pitt. Skylar Bell, wide receiver out of UConn. VJ Payne, Elijah Surratt, Indiana legend. The Georgia State guy, Ted Hurst, is going to get a lot of love. Speaking of a guy that is probably going to be taken higher than a lot of people expect. Derek Moore from Michigan, the edge that Nero is a big fan of.
He might be a day 2 player at this point too. So
Mike Washington, the very productive Arkansas running back. He could be the 4th running back off the board, right? So it's just a matter of where the running back run starts, I suppose. Let's see, Will Lee the 3rd.
Probably day 2, but maybe
day 2.
It's possible. Yeah.
Deontay
If he's there a 101, I
3.
wouldn't be shocked, but it would
Brennan
be interesting.
Brennan Thompson probably going to have a big chatter week based on how he's going to test.
Yes. Yep.
There's just no way that Big Citrus is going on day 3, right? He's not a day 3 player.
It's awesome that we have an orange and a lemon in this draft, by the way. A lot of citruses.
I know, right? We needed it. Where's Eli Apple's cousin? We need that guy in here. Okay, I think we have the graphic for it. Just like the guys because I scrolled the big board when I wrote this. And was it this one? Yeah. These are the names that I'm suspicious we'll be talking a lot about coming out of the week. And some of these we've already named. Iowa center Logan Jones, Arkansas running back Mike Washington Jr., Penn State running back Nick Singleton, probably a day 2 guy, Utah tight end Dallin Bentley, Stanford tight end Sam Roush, Kentucky wide receiver Kendrick Law. I forget who. The other day somebody was like, why would you want and now I'm just blanking on names. Remind me of the name of the Georgia receiver.
Is it Zachariah Branch?
Yeah, why would you want Zachariah Branch on day 2 when you can have Kendrick Law on day 3, which is kind of fun.
Kendrick Law is fun, dude. He is fun. Yeah,
he's a fun player. He catches everything at the line of scrimmage in kind of a Looney Tunes role, but
he's a speed merchant, man. Screen merchant.
Yeah, and then A&M tackle Trey Zoon. So we named a number of those guys. That's what I
Dallin
love.
Bentley, if I could really just quick, like I love the mention of Dallin Bentley in your article. I forgot that you mentioned him. He is the most interesting player ever out of Utah because his previous 3 years before this year, he had 11 catches, and one of those seasons was at Snow College. He had 11 catches in 3 years, and all of a sudden he had 48 for over 600 yards. Yeah, junior college. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man.
Snow College.
He had 8 catches at Snow College, and then 3 years later, he has 48 for over 600 at Utah at 6'3" and 264 pounds. Like, he is a interesting player, man. Very interesting.
Well, it's going to be an interesting week, Ryan, and I can't wait to get out there. Going to be tracking you intently tomorrow to make sure that you arrive in one piece as you trudge through the snow, I guess. Hopefully it gets cleared up for you, and the fine people that are clearing the roads do a bang up job in the next 24 hours. So looking forward to seeing you in person and grabbing a drink in Indianapolis. We have it on lock here at A to Z Sports, not just Nashville. We're going to have a big crew of 7 folks out there. We are going to have a table on Radio Row. We've got a ton of big plans, big guests, big collaborations. It's going to be a blast. And we'll hear from all the coaches and GMs and all the prospects. So it's a massive week of news. You got to keep it locked. A to Z Sports on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube. We'll be here live from the Combine doing the morning show all week. Going to be a big time. So Ryan, I'll see you out there. To everyone in the chat, I'll see you in Indianapolis next. Looking forward to it. For Ryan, I'm Easton. I got to get out of here. This has been the A to Z Sports Morning Show. Same time, same place tomorrow.